Hello and welcome to Street Badass Live. We've got Mike Chudley coming to see us today, and we've got Kay as well, who's doing this with me, which we should have in shortly. So let's just see if I can get Kay in. 1 second. Just wait and see Kay there. Who's that? That's Mike. Get Kay in. Kay, are you here? I'll tell you what, Mike's in, so let's get Mike in first, and we'll get Kay in after. Kay as well, so we should get them both in. There we go, both at the same time. How's that?
Hey, it works.
I hate that bit because it's having done about 100 of them. There's been so many times where it doesn't work.
Like an awkward 35 seconds of you attempting to use Instagram.
It's the worst. Yeah. It's the worst. It's the bit I hate. Nice to see you, Mike. I sort of only discovered your work quite recently. I was trying to think. I was talking to Kay about it earlier. I'm not sure when it was, but I think I was watching. You know, when you're on YouTube and you watch a street photography video, and then another one pops up, and it was yours. And I was really impressed with it. Really impressed with it. It was really nice to see a group of young people running around London taking street photography, because you don't see it quite as much. Where my experience anyway, when we've done meetups and things, people tend to be slightly older. So yeah, it's really refreshing to see.
Two things. Sounds like YouTube's doing its job, so that's good.
Yeah.
YouTube is supposed to recommend my video, hopefully, to other street photographers. So that's nice to hear. And my experience is most of the people I bump into are younger. Do you think that's
interesting?
Do you think that's there's some sort of biasy going on there because I'm younger, so I'm more likely to speak to other younger people?
Yeah.
And you're older, so you're more likely to speak to older people?
It will be. It's mainly the meetups we've done. So obviously on Street Badass, we do like a year, every year we do a couple, or I think Todd's done about 6 or 7 all around different places in the world.
I've not seen, have you done one in London, I'm assuming then?
Yeah, we've done 4 now in London. So the last one we done was in the summer, and that was there was a big one. So we had 90 people turned up to that. Great. And there were a few young people, but on the whole, it was an older lot. Well, over 40, not old, but older.
Yeah. Not kids.
So so maybe we need to combine these two groups together.
Yeah. That sounds great.
I'm so surprised you guys haven't run into each other. Yeah,
so am I. I think in London, I mean, I'm saying that, and there's going to be so many people I don't know, but especially this year, I've been out so much. I think I've bumped into so many people with a camera, like doing the same thing. But you say that there's always people you've not met, right? But I like to think I've got a good group of people that do street photography. That I'm quite social, but I've not bumped into these plus 40s.
And do you actually go out in a group most of the time?
I go out by myself and then bump into people, and then you end up being social. So I might intentionally meet one person, but I'm going to be over here midday. Do you want to meet up? But in and around that, no, there's no intention to be social, but you just end up seeing people.
Well, I've noticed too on some of your videos, you say you're out for like 8 or 9 hours. So, there probably is a likely chance that you have time for a meetup, I would assume.
Yeah, and if you're on Oxford Street and it's 5 p.m. and the sun's setting, which is like the best time ever, there's also like 10 other photographers that are probably on that street. So
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's exactly what we did on one of the meetups. We walked all the way along Oxford Street.
Yeah, beautiful.
When the sun was coming down.
Yeah.
It was lovely. The sun shining in people's faces, and yeah, it was a good one.
It's nice to hear golden hour works everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll start at the beginning. How did you get into street photography? And do you remember the first image you took?
So I picked up a camera when I was like 12 or 13 to do skateboarding and BMX stuff. That's how I started. But it wasn't to be a photographer, it was just to take photos of what I was doing. So I didn't think that you could do this anywhere else. I was just like, there's people skating, I want to take photos of people skating. But in that culture, making videos and taking photos is like secondary to the actual thing. Like the skate and BMX world just is also a media in itself. Like that's the culture of it, because people do this crazy stuff. There's always people taking photos. So like I know loads of photographers that used to skate, because that's like how it's like that's like the process or the journey of a photographer. I know Matt Stewart used to skate all the time. That is like a recurring theme. People that take photos a lot also probably used to skate. It's like I've met loads of people like that. But then I remember there was one photo, and I'd love to find it. I can't find the file anymore, but I think it's, if I search, I'll post it on Facebook or whatever, like 8 years ago I must have done. But there was a photo of my friend on at like 5 a.m. in the morning, and he did a tail whip on his BMX, but he did it on the Humber Bridge in Hull, like the crossing between Hull and Barton. The Humber Bridge is obviously a massive bridge. It looks great, and we got up at 4 a.m. with the intention of there not being any traffic. Like we'll make a thing of it, and he did a tail whip, and he was in the middle of the bridge, and that was the first time I took a photo, and I was more happy with the photo than the BMX. Like I didn't really care for the. That's when I was like, oh, you can go out and take photos of other things and not necessarily just the skateboarding aspect. And that's when it switched for me. And I was like, oh, I want to go out as much as possible to take photos, not I want to go out and ride my bike or skate. So that's when the camera then became the priority. And then I'd say street photography, it started about 5 years ago, and I moved 6 years ago, and I moved down south, and London was like a 30-minute train ride. And then I was like, oh wow, this is a thing. Like people go into the city and take photos. And then after that, it's just probably 10,000 rubbish images for the next few years, and then you get there eventually, don't you?
But, you've got to take about, I think it's about 3 years worth of shit before you start getting.
So I can't remember the first actual street photo. I don't know, but I remember when I first realised that going out to take photos just for the sake of taking photos was interesting. I knew it could be something then.
What other photography do you do besides the street photography then?
So I do, most of my day job is video and photo, but most of it is video editing. I make a lot of YouTube videos for myself. I make YouTube videos with someone else as well in a totally different niche. I spend most of the time making videos, and then I also do event stuff. I might take portraits, but most of my actual photography is just street. But I'm using a camera every day, nearly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which is nice actually, because then I separate. When I'm working, I'm typically filming and editing, but then when I'm having fun, I'm probably taking photos just leisurely. So I never feel like I'm working when I'm taking photos. But if I'm ever making a video, it's like a different process, you know.
That's a good thing, because I think I've always thought I do photography a little bit professionally, but it's never seemed like a proper job, and I've always thought if it was my full-time job, maybe I'd lose a passion for it.
Yeah.
But you haven't had that.
I feel like it's separate. I wouldn't say. I mean, if I meet someone for the first time and they say, "What do I do?" I say I'm a photographer or a videographer. But I spend 99% of my time videoing and editing. I've been making videos before I started taking photos, really. So that's what pays. But then, because of that and the surroundings, if I'm at an event or if I'm filming or if I'm anywhere that they need photos, obviously I can do that as well. But the photo side is definitely like pressure off, like just have fun most of the time, which is good.
So YouTube was made for you, really. You've got a big presence on YouTube. What would you say to aspiring YouTubers that want to do a similar thing to you?
It's looks like it's, I think the perception of YouTube is different than being in it, like in the trenches every week making a video, because it's not easy. Now, my goal for it is to just keep it fun, because there's an analogy like if you're in a race, the person that enjoys running will always run further than the person that's trying to get a goal, like reach the end. So the person that's just enjoying it will always do it for longer than the people that are just there for the result. So my goal with YouTube isn't actually to get a certain amount of money or subscribers, or I just, because I like taking photos, I just document everything about that. So that's the first thing I tell people: you have to enjoy it. Don't make videos for any other reason, because I don't think you'll make it work, because it's a never-ending pursuit. Like it's a tough game to play. But because I enjoy making videos, for some reason, I enjoy editing videos and I enjoy taking photos. So I kind of like merge them two together, which is fortunate. But I know the way I see it, I know loads of people that start making YouTube because they see it's like glorified, isn't it? Like if you're self-employed and you're a YouTuber, like you must live in a penthouse somewhere and drive a Lamborghini, right? But that's like literally the 0.11%. Like they don't exist really, but they're the people getting millions of views. The YouTubers that I know are people that work incredibly hard, don't really get that many views, and then when they do, it's great for a month, but then they go back down to a lower amount of views the next month. They're endlessly trying to figure out titles and thumbnails, endlessly trying to figure out new content. And I'm in a couple of group chats with friends and other YouTubers, and nothing about it is fun. Like the people that have well-paid jobs are just people with good careers, like the normal 9 to 5. Like the people making YouTube money is very, very difficult. And I want to make sure it's not glorified for anyone, because you just got to keep it fun. That's why I keep it fun, because if I wasn't enjoying it, I don't think I'd do it. It's difficult.
Right. It seems like a full-time job. So especially if you already have a full-time job, I mean, look, keeping up with Instagram is difficult for me. And I know Instagram's like going the way of MySpace at this point.
Yeah. So with my job, I actually work with someone else full time on their YouTube channel as well. So I'm literally spend most of my time on YouTube. But fortunately, for like with my side of YouTube, because it's street photography, I'm always gonna, what I feel like I'm always gonna go out and take street photos. I love it. I'm like too far gone at this point. Like I'm in. So if I could just keep it based around that content, I'm never not going to want to do it, because I'm always out taking photos. I mean, some days I don't want to make a video, I won't make a video, but because I'm so passionate about street photography, I can try and mix that passion into a video form, and try and make a YouTube video. But no, YouTube's difficult. It's not easy. You've got to really enjoy it and be passionate about what you're doing, or else you'll get annoyed with it.
I think your passion really does come through, because that's one thing. Like, I've watched lots of street photography videos on YouTube, and yours sort of I felt something when I was watching yours, because I could feel your passion.
That's good.
You could see you were all enjoying yourself. You were all, really into it, and it sort of hits home, and it makes you feel. That's how I feel.
Yeah,
you can,
that's good. Thanks. I'll tell you that's a compliment. That's the best thing someone can say about a video, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I was doing all the research for this too, and I like the through line that you are keeping it fun and allowing people to just find their own way via, I think you called perspective a superpower in one of your videos. And I think it shows through your videos that you are doing this as a sort of a creative outlet. And also it's encouraging to other people when they see that to hear something like, there's no goal, there's no end game, just go out, shoot, and show us your perspective, basically.
Yeah, the point of this street photography specifically, because no one's getting paid for it, like there or thereabouts. People make money in different ways, but the goal isn't to go out and make money from doing street photography. So you kind of end up in this space in between of a group of people that have found an interest in something, but no one has an end game. We're all just like, so when I bump into people in the street and we're taking photos, I'm like, that is the only reason I'm there, to take photos. So there's no, it's like the nicest, it's like, it's so good to be passionate about something where there isn't necessarily a result for it, because things like, it's a bit like skateboarding as well. I go back to skateboarding. Like, you can try a trick over and over again just to land it once, but then what? Oh, you just learn a new trick. Like, it's just like, it's endless. It just keeps going. Whereas with, like, I've played football for most of my life. You can enjoy it, but the result is you have to win, and that then affects the team dynamic. You've got a coach that's pressuring you for stuff. You come together as a team, so you have to get an end result. And at some points, I'm like, I can't be asked with this pressure. I just want to kick a ball around in a field. Whereas street photography is just the process. There is no, if you get a good photo, fantastic, go again. That you just keep going. There's no end. There's no end game. And I think that means the people you meet, when you go out and take photos, you're literally like the most laid back, and you're just there out of passion. No one makes me go outside and take photos, and that's why I feel like a lot of the videos I make, or when I'm trying to script or think about, articulate my thoughts of what I'm trying to do, it is just because you want to do it, and no other reason whatsoever. Which is, those things are rare in life. Most things in life, you go and do things because of a result of something. Like, there is an output for your input. But with street photography, there might not be an output for weeks and weeks and weeks. But why am I spending 8 hours on the street taking photos? Because I want to. It's great.
It is weird. Often I do lots of portraits of people I find quite eccentric. But I've thought about it loads of times. I thought to myself, yeah, but it's eccentric what I do. You know, going out and just taking candid pictures of people is quite weird. But
yeah,
it's not a bad thing. It's just
I've not thought about this enough to articulate it properly. But there's got to be like a common personality trait, or a common theme, a common psychological frame with people that do this. Because why are we interested in watching the world to a certain extent where we want to capture it? Because people watches, everyone's nosy, but other people, it stops there, doesn't it? Like, most people just go, okay, that thing over there was funny, but then we go, that thing over there's funny, how can I make it look good for a photo? And then, like, looking at old photos, looking at the history of it, it gets more interesting the more you dive into it. Whereas some people, they don't get it at all. So there's got to be something about our personalities. I don't know what it is, but
I think it is a form of art, because you're capturing humanity, aren't you?
Yeah.
In the photography. And I mean, you've got a video there, by the way. If you can,
I know I need to script it better than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's it probably is a personality trait. I think one thing I've noticed is the photographers I've met have all been nice people. I very rarely meet, you don't really meet horrible people. They've all got that aspect to them that
well, I think just to interrupt on that, they're nice people, because if you're not nice, you get found out. The whole, so if, like, my family ask me, doesn't anyone say anything when you're taking the photos, or like, don't you get confronted? It's like, well, no, 'cause my intentions are fine. When I speak to people, I'm fine, I'm polite, because I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. That translates into the action of taking someone's photograph. So whether they know I'm there or not, I'm not inherently trying to be rude. So that maybe carries through as a personality for all the photographers that I know. I know people that get super close to people, but they do it respectfully. And it's hard to describe how they do it, but it's kind of like, the way you move, the way you act. It's hard to analyze because everyone does it differently. But if you wasn't a nice person, you'd get found out and you wouldn't be able to keep it up. If you was annoying, if you wasn't a great person and you had bad intentions, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, I think that is one thread that I've seen through the photographers that have come on this live stream, is that we do have a respect for humanity. We have a respect for the people that we're taking photographs of, whether it is we are talking to them first or whether we are taking a candid shot. There's not anybody that I've seen yet, at least on these live streams, that I've run into on the streets, who is doing it to kind of humiliate anybody or make them, and maybe there are photographers like that, and I just don't surround myself with that. I mean, I could probably think of at least one famous
they will
person.
exist. They will exist, but only very briefly. And then I think they won't they won't care anymore because, like you said, we have an inherent respect. And for the reason why, I don't know, but because we do respect our subjects or humanity itself, that makes us better because we're looking for things that other people are not looking for. Because in one of my videos, I was mentioned how being present makes you better. Like if you can really fall into a flow state of looking for details and being like in flow with the street and understanding your surroundings, that does mean that you have to be respectful of what's going on. Because if you was wandering around like you own the place and you was being rude, you wouldn't get the photos, you wouldn't capture the moments, you wouldn't get, you know, the in-between scenes that no one else is witnessing. Like you have to, there's a level of awareness that comes with slowing down and being respectful of everyone around you. So
I think too, it goes back to, I think you mentioned in that video, you mentioned the power of now, and you know, there's a whole I could go off on all that, but basically it is about standing where your feet are, being exactly where your feet are, not staring at the past and having whatever hangups you have about that, and not future tripping. And that's a good thing about like looking at life like 1/60th of a second at a time. Boom, you are right where your feet are. And I think that there's something just really just liberating. And I think that's what you were saying too. I know other people have mentioned the same thing about just being right there, and right now.
You have to. I don't think you've got a choice, because if you're thinking about something else, you're going to miss whatever just happened in front of you. So it's like you're forced into this. I mean, it's not meditative because it's sometimes a bit chaotic, the streets, but it's like this flow state. Like you have to be in it to get good photos. And if you're not really, you're being social, you're chatting to someone, you're missing stuff. Now, the challenge is trying to find those moments, right? But the step one is being aware and just understanding what you're doing.
We had a lady on about a year ago called Lactasia, who's over in France, and she described as being in the zone as being like a truffle pig, sniffing out the truffles. You know, you're just like completely focused on finding those shots, and you might not get any, but when you do, amazing feeling. You know, it's when you know you've got a good shot, which is rare, I think. You know, to know that that's a good one.
Yeah, that was a question I asked my audience I think I was going to make a video about it, was how do you know? Like how do you know? What's the feeling? How do you describe the feeling? But then everyone describes it differently, and I couldn't get an answer really, because everyone's got different opinions on it.
Question?
How do I know that I've got a good shot? If I had, this might seem very basic, like just face value. So I'm sure there's a deeper meaning to it, but if I think about what I would like to happen or see something about to happen before it's happened, and then I get the photo, that's when I've had like my thought and the frame of like come together. So like, just for example, if I see 6 people about to jump off a ledge and I think that they might jump off the ledge, and then I go over there and they do, and I get it, that's when I'm like, okay, I've done my job. I thought that was about to happen. It did happen, and I got the photo. That's when I'm like, whereas sometimes I can't take credit for photos because I was just there at the right time. And I'm like, oh, I just pressed the shutter button. I didn't even know that would happen. And then people say, how did you take that? And I'm like, I don't know. I was just there. Like, whereas other times you can like kind of see it before it happened, and you can kind of preconceive and like, oh, like your spider senses are tingling, and then it does happen. That's really satisfying. I love that feeling.
You did this year. You attended a street photography workshop with Matt Stewart.
Yeah.
What did you learn from that, and would you recommend doing workshops?
I'd recommend doing a workshop with Matt Stewart. Yeah, I think he's one of the best. Right. What was what did I learn the most? I think I don't know how you describe someone's level of awareness, but his observational skills were on point. So he could look at a scene and he would point out if there's just something happening in front of us, whether it's some light and shadow or a bench or someone sat on the bench. His idea of what would make it a good photograph was instant. So he'd see some light and then he'd go, I know what would make this good. And he would verbally tell you what would make this good. And then we'd wait and see if it'd happen or not. And there was like three or four occasions where he'd analyze a scene and go, oh, this composition looks good. We've got some light, some colors nice. And then he'd say exactly what would make that scene even better. And then it happened. And we were just like, I mean, I don't want to throw around woo-woo words of manifestation, but it was almost as if they were paid actors on the street. But that came down to him understanding his surroundings and being aware of what possibly could happen. Because then all he was doing was verbalizing it. He was just essentially verbalizing his thoughts all day. But that to me was just like, okay, this guy's observational skills are second to, like, sharp, very quick.
And being in that zone, getting in that zone, do you find some days you go up to London and you can be in the zone perfectly, or other times you just can't quite get there?
Yes, it's probably like maybe it's like, I'd say it's like 50-50, but then I'm thinking actually there's more times where you're not in the zone, but you're trying to be. I'd say most of the time you're attempting, but like you said, getting the photos are very difficult. Like getting a good street photograph is very, very difficult. It rarely happens. So I think it's the pursuit of trying to be in the zone. That's what it is most of the time. And then a couple of times, if the environment's right, if you're in the good mood, then it clicks. But the pursuit of trying to get the photo is like the pursuit of trying to be in flow. That might be a better way of, whether that's like you're tired or you're hungry, or like there's so many things that might put you off. You're being social, there's the light's rubbish, whatever it is that you think makes a good photo, none of that might not be happening. So you're like hunting for it. And I think most of street photography is the pursuit of being in flow, if that makes sense.
I think it's confidence as well. I think sometimes if you feel it inside you, if you feel confident, if you're happy in yourself, you'll take better pictures. Yeah, also, it's the first few pictures as well. If your first few pictures come out well, I think that gives you confidence for the rest of the time.
When that happens, because sometimes you get one good photo and then you can almost relax because you know that I've been out for 15 minutes and I've seen something really interesting. I don't care if anything else happens now because that was fun. Those 10 seconds
takes
the
pressure off.
Yeah, and then other times you might be waiting all day and nothing's happened. But that's when it's the pursuit of, like, why am I still walking around? I've been walking around for 6 hours and I'm not seeing anything, but I'm still walking. Why don't I just go home? It's like, yeah, but there might be, or the chance of. It's weird, isn't it?
You never know.
Yeah,
it's weird. Shot might be just around the corner.
most of the time it isn't.
I love how you analyze your own photos, right? And so is that just based on, I mean, you don't seem like the type, correct me if I'm wrong, who does a lot of comparison of your work to others' work in, for your own mental state or whatever. So as you're doing it, you give yourself a lot of threes, and I'm like, that's a damn good shot.
Yeah, I want to bring this up as well. I'm quite angry about your threes because sometimes I look at them and think, oh, that's a really good shot, and then you give it a three, and I'm like, what does that mean about my photos?
Exactly. I started to do the exact same thing. I'm like, shit, I don't take a single street photograph, which is another question I have for you also. Like, how do you define what a street photo is? Because I've noticed that I've been taking a lot of like portraits on the street, and I've been doing a lot of, practicing a lot of other techniques just because. But it dawned on me when I heard your video that I haven't been taking just street photographs, period. Like based on what I think your definition is.
So my definition doesn't, I mean, this goes without saying, but my definition doesn't define it, right? So your definition could be different to mine because it isn't an expression. We've got this like gray area of, I can kind of say what I want and you can kind of say what you want and no one's right or wrong. Now, that makes it difficult to define things, but what I get most joy out of that's where I'll start. I get most joy out of candid moments of people wherever they are in a public space, because that might be like on the beach or on the train or where, you know what I mean? So, but I like to narrow it down to, I had no control over it, but I still managed to be in the right place at the right time. So a street photo is just a photo taken on the street. Now that could be, if we're talking definitions, that could be a portrait that you asked for, or it could be light and shadow, it could be contrast, black and white, it could be abstract, like it could be whatever. But for me, a good street photograph is, or I get the most joy out of looking at and taking, is a candid moment that tells a story, is funny, maybe it's a bit witty, maybe there's some pun in there, there's maybe I've the way I've framed it, I've made it look fun, or I've told a story that didn't really happen, because sometimes street photography isn't what you get, it isn't what you see is what you get. Sometimes the photographer has the chance to manipulate what's happened by choosing to include certain things or not include certain things. All of that, I find that so much fun. So that's just like candid photographs of people, I guess, is the way to describe it. I have no interest in sometimes, but I have no interest in asking for portraits or black and white, light and shadow, contrast. I don't. That's not where I have the most fun. Even though I see great work all the time of that kind of stuff. But yeah, if it's like a candid moment that'll never happen again, I find that so much fun.
And going back to Kei's first question, how do you analyze your own photographs?
I think the problem here is when you're reading Matt Stewart's book and then you go out that following afternoon. But I don't, I think that's rare. Like, I never really compare my photographs to the best of the best, because that's not fair. You just end up depressed, right? No one should compare their work. But I do compare it to, if I like a photo and I think that's good, how could it be better? So I know for next time, I'm like planning for. So when I give a photo a 3, that's because, first of all, I think it's good enough to even show it. So I know you're saying, why do you even give it a 2 or a 3 or 4 out of 10? I mean, it didn't get deleted. So that's, if I'm giving my photo a compliment, that's it. It didn't get deleted. But the reason I don't want to give it too high is, well, I obviously don't think the photo is that good, or else it would have got a 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 10 or whatever. But that rarely happens. And remember that I'm making videos like every week. So the chance of me getting a very good image every week is very rare. So when I do get an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 every 6 months, you'll know about it, because I'll talk about it and share it. But because it's weird, because I'm making videos, you're seeing the bits that no one else would see, but I'm okay to share it. So if I went through my book that's coming out, I'm rating them 8s, 9s. Like, I love them, but that's because that's 3 years, 4 years of work, right? So, but yeah, the videos every week isn't a good example, because that was just photos from Saturday, so they probably were 3 out of 10s, Like,
it's a good time to talk about the book. So, Learning to See is your first photography book.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that and how you went about producing it?
So I'm self-publishing it, just doing it myself, all paid for by myself. Now, I'll just be open and honest, because I have an audience of people that will buy it, that's gave me the confidence to release something. I'm so fortunate that people wanted it before it existed, because I have subscribers, that kind of, I can step over my own imposter syndrome, because part of me thinks I shouldn't have a book. Like, I'm not good enough to have a book.
Yeah.
But then I know there is an audience of people that will buy it. So that the hesitation has kind of been taken care of by having a good community of people that watch my videos. And 200, I'm doing 200 of the books. It's not too expensive for me to do it myself, but it's also worth having that amount of books for people. So like the business side of it, the logistics of it makes sense. I'm in a place where I could potentially have a book and sell them. And then talking about from the art point of view, I'd say like, I think it was like 2 years ago, I took a photo it's the first image in the book. Because when I took the photo, I thought, I loved it. It's like in my opinion, it's like a 9 out of 10. But I said, if I ever make a book, this is the type of photo I want in it. And No, that's no. I think that's just somewhere in the middle of the sequence. I think in the middle of the book. But the photo that I took it's on. I've shared it before, but so that was like 18 months ago.
Which one is it?
It is a red woman in a red coat and a beige, and a guy next to her in a beige coat, and they're stood in front of a billboard poster that's red and beige split down the middle, and they're both stood either side of the split.
Okay.
So I remember taking that about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and I thought, wow, that's a moment that's really rare and will never happen again, and like, I'm pleased I got that. Yeah, no, it's not that, but similar thing. I like the dog in that one. Yeah, and then 2 years later, I ended up with a fair few images that I really liked, and I really got into photo books. That's the one. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I didn't. That took like 30 seconds as well. I was there for no period of time at all.
Oh, that's a gift from the gods right there.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Nice.
So when I took, so that was the first photo I took, and I thought, oh, if I ever make a book, like I joked to my friend, I was like, that's book worthy. Like I like that, but I didn't think I'd ever really make one. 3 years later, my audience has grown. I like to think I've got better at taking photos. I don't know how much better. I'll probably change my mind in 5 years when I look back at the photos. But I also thought the process would be an incredible learning experience. So yeah, it was more of a let's do it first, and then in the future, if anything comes up, like an important project, or I have some more specific ideas in mind, then I already have the experience of making a book. So I was thinking it's more for future me. How cool would it be to have a book that I made in 2023 that I've got on my coffee table and that exists in the real world? Because in 20 years' time, I bet I'm so pleased that I did it. And I wouldn't have wanted to look back and go, oh, I remember when I was in London, like every day taking photos, but I never made anything from it. I think I would have been disappointed in the future me if I didn't make it now. Because I feel, especially this year, I feel like I've really put the effort in, and it's nice personally, like selfishly, to have something to show for it. And now what I said earlier about having an audience and people that want to buy it, that like sidesteps my like imposter syndrome, where it's like, I don't think I deserve a book, but I know people out there probably want to buy it, so why would I not put two and two together, you know? So yeah, fortunately, having a YouTube audience has made it happen as well.
And having 200 people that will have that book on their table as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm really excited for that. I can't wait to share photos physically, because I've really got into my books as well in like the last 18 months, and a photo book is just the best thing, literally the best thing ever.
Now,
yeah, I'm a big fan myself. I've probably got about 50, 60 books now. Not as many as mine and Pa.
I haven't seen your pre-order. I haven't seen your pre-order come through, mate. So.
Not?
No.
I was hoping to get a free one.
Wait, I figured you're running around the corner, so yeah, I'll drop it off.
Signed copies.
Yeah.
So, what coffee table books are on your coffee table, Mike?
The one behind me is too big to lift up, so I'm not going to get it. But it's like a historic London, the best photos from like the last 200 years or whatever. But recently, Matt Stewart's All That Life Can Afford, Jesse Marlowe's Don't Just Tell Them, Show Them, Harry Grayart's book I bought recently. What is it? Reclaim the Streets, Street Photography Now. I've got the obvious ones. I made a video last week sharing some books as well.
Oh, good. Okay. Well,
but yeah, I've not got a massive collection, but about 18 months ago when I started, I was like, this is it. Like, this is the best way to consume them, to consume photography. So that obsession, along with me thinking it'd be cool to have my own kind of.
And these 200 copies, say someone did want to purchase one of these,
yep.
How would they go about that?
I just got an order through right now. That's so funny. I just got a notification.
Excellent.
Yeah, on my website, just mikechudley.com. I think the link might be in my bio. It might take you to YouTube, but just on my website. And I spoke to the printers today. They're being finalized. The cover is on the cover, the text is like silver foiling. and then black foiling on the black so you can't see the word C. That's like a bit of a pun with the graphic there. So learning to, and then you can't really see the word C. That is being foiled today. I got an email saying they're doing the covers, so I should have them in a couple of days, and then I'll figure out shipping and stuff.
Excellent.
There's still,
so yeah, my website nearly
still
there.
Some orders. There's still, you haven't sold all 200 yet.
No.
Maybe
I sold.
Maybe in the next 20 minutes, but
that would be amazing. I sold like 120 now or something like that, which is crazy.
It is a bit of a scramble. People better get their orders in.
Yeah, when I hopefully by the time I make a video with the book, that should. I think they will probably like confidently saying they should probably sell when I make a, because I've not really made a video about it yet, and that's obviously where most of my audience probably will buy. So
what happens when you sell all 200 before the video gets made?
Even better, then it means that the product was of high value, and then next time I can charge twice as. I'm joking.
You could always do another 200. If it's
yeah. Well, for this copy, I think maybe this is just me being trying to figure out the marketing side of it too much, but because there is only 200, that's why they will sell. Does that make sense?
Right.
If I said they were unlimited, I might not sell 200 because people are like, well, I can get it whenever I want. But because it is only 200, tough. If you don't get one in the next week, then you're not having one.
Excellent. I'll be purchasing one of those. I might have to just come to your house and get it, though. I don't want to pay the postage.
Well,
it's only 10 minutes away.
UK shipping's a £5, so you either pay that in petrol
US?
or
even to the US.
No,
US is 20, I think.
Yes, a lot of money to send stuff.
Yes, a small parcel is expensive.
Yeah, really, dear. What's the one thing you've learned in street photography that's been the most benefit to you?
To enjoy the now and be present, because that reflects into everything else you do. So even things like if you miss a photo, don't get annoyed, because like there'll be another opportunity. Like opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming, and that metaphor or analogy or philosophy literally can apply to everything else you do. So you made a little boo-boo at work, don't worry about it. Just try again next time. Like that simple philosophy of you didn't do it today, but you're going to try again tomorrow. And I'd say I learned that from skateboarding as well, though, because you literally spend weeks trying a trick and not landing it. But that teaches you that things don't come easy. And I think that's a good philosophy to get in your brain, that, oh, that didn't happen straight away. Oh dear, you're gonna have to try again harder. And that's good.
Yeah, but
I enjoy that.
Back to your other point. Even if it did happen, even if it does happen, you've got tomorrow.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do then?
Yeah.
Like,
because you're enjoying trying. That's the main bit. The attempt is actually more fun than the result. So I actually think that is like part of my personality now. As like if I put down the camera, I think that would still shine through in anything else I did. YouTube's similar. Like you make one YouTube video, it might flop, get no views, but I'm gonna make another one next week, and it might get 50,000 views, it might get 100,000 views. But because I'm enjoying the attempt and I'm enjoying the process, I don't really care about the result as much. The result is actually just a bonus.
Right. Well, because you care about what you're doing, it doesn't matter what people think.
Yeah.
You just do it.
Definitely, yeah.
You're living your life. The rich.
I just sold another book as well, by the way. So thanks. I just got a notification through. His name is Ian. Thanks, Ian, if you're watching this.
Is it just Ian?
I'm logging on right now.
Ian H. That one.
It doesn't say anything else. Just Ian.
There is some details, but I'm not going to tell them live, am I?
No, it's just I know a few Ians.
It was just Ian H. That's all I saw.
Ian H.
Okay.
I noticed on one of your videos that you asked someone for a portrait, and it was a man with some vicious dogs that almost bit your legs off.
Yeah.
His name was Mike. Oh no, that other guy. Never mind.
Oh, that was
often
a photographer, wasn't it? Yeah. Called Mike.
How often do you actually ask for a portrait?
Hardly ever. No, never. But if I don't know, let's say if I take 500 photos, one of them might have been asked, maybe. But I was stood talking to a friend, like literally 10 yards away from that. He went and sat down with his dogs, his dogs were all muzzled up, and also it's the whole, they were XL bullies or pit bulls or whatever, so that's very fitting for the UK at the minute. In Trafalgar Square, they're always around there, they're protesting and stuff. And he was chilling. I thought he looked quite good, and I actually was just in the mood, confident. You know, sometimes you're feeling it. And then I just went over and asked him, but obviously he was fine, but his dogs were muzzled up, which for a good reason, right? They barked at me, so. But I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, that never happens really. I never really ask. But he looked cool. I liked the dogs, but I don't think the photo came out to be very good either.
And when you go to London, is there a route you take? Is there a certain, do you just sort of go where you want to go, or do you have a certain route that you like to take?
The route follows some coffee shops that I like. So I'll typically go to Tottenham Court Road and then make my way around Central, Trafalgar Square, Oxford Circus, Leicester Square, Soho, Chinatown, and then occasionally Bank of England's great, you know, suits, 8 a.m. rush hour or 8 p.m. rush hour, 5 p.m. rush hour. You've got the like the financial district, as you would call it. So it's really good around there. East London, Shoreditch, places like that are really good. South Bank, the sun's setting, it's nice around there, but mostly central, like the West End. But based around coffee shops, that's my favourite route. Yeah.
You're filled up with coffee every time you go.
Yeah, I say that, but I only have 3, which I think is quite good.
I think I would be racing at a little bathroom breaks all the time.
That's why you. That's why you go to the next. That's why you go to the next coffee shop.
Nice. You know what I did notice is that, okay, so you're in London. It's very busy. I guess I didn't realize how many people are in these areas that you're shooting. It's very fortunate. What do you do when you go, or do you just avoid going to places that just aren't quite as populated?
So the populated areas, like the most dense areas, are probably the most fun in like short bursts. You don't want to get too carried away because sometimes it can be overwhelming. But when you're not around that, just change the style of photography a little bit. Because I get questions like, what do you do in a small town and there's like 4 people? I'm like, well, you don't try and take photos like you would on Oxford Street. It's a totally different. It'd be weird, right? If you're the guy with the camera and there's one other person on the high street, like, what you do would just have to be different. But I'm fortunate. I don't take it for granted. Like I think about it, how good it is every time when I'm on Oxford Street, thinking this is probably the best street in the world, and people are not grateful for it because everyone that's rushing around with their bags and they're trying to get the tube, and everyone's like, you know, the London people are just not happy or they don't look it. I'm just stood there and having the best time ever. So as another example of like the photography perspective on life is actually a nice perspective because we appreciate it all. So yeah, I like to follow the dense areas, you know, like Trafalgar Square, there's always stuff happening. Oxford Street's good. But if I'm around less people, then you just change the style of what you're doing. Get more creative with it.
Do you ever shoot in Chelmsford?
Yeah, so every morning I go for a walk. I'll probably take 2 photos. I might not even press the shutter button, but I either walk to the gym or walk to a coffee shop and do some work. But either way, my camera's out. So if I see anything, I'll take a photo. But I think that's just to get some steps in the morning, really. And the goal isn't to take photos, but I'll bring my camera with me. So I have a folder of my local area. None of the photos in the book are from my local area, but I think the act of taking photos every day is something to keep up, which is good.
Someone that that you might not know, but Dawn Eagleton lived in Chelmsford for quite a long time and has taken some amazing pictures. Oh, really? Candid through windows in Chelmsford. Very good. Dawn Eagleton.
So you have to send me a link after this.
I will do. So let's go through some of your shots. This is one that stood out for me. I just love the fact that he's completely horizontal there almost, and that is going to be a big flash when he goes down, but you've caught him perfectly.
So what's funny is this is another example of street photography isn't always exactly what you get, because your interpretation of it is better than if I give you context. Because if I tell you the real story, it's not as interesting as the photo. Now, it is funny. It is a funny moment, right? And he did belly flop, but the water level, we're actually up on a platform, so he's way higher than it might look. So by the time he hits the water, he has dived a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So it's
yeah.
But he did. His point was to get everyone's attention. Like he called around and was like, "Right, I'm gonna go now. This is me," and it was, you couldn't miss it. He obviously belly flopped. I didn't do anything, and that's where I got the photo. But then after, he did recover it a little bit. That's an example of adding context to the photo actually ruins it a little bit, I think.
Yeah, that's another one that I watched the video of this, and when I saw the shot, I was like, oh yeah, that's amazing. That's a great catch for what you actually done there. You literally moved the camera, took the shot, and you got it, which was
that was a zero expectation. Didn't think anything would happen. I saw him. He was lighting up for ages, so I had like a 30-meter distance to walk to him as he was lighting up. So my intention was, oh, I'm gonna try and get something of him with a flame or something. And then by the time I got to him, he put his hands down and looked over, and that's when I got the shot. So the timing couldn't have been better, but that wasn't my intention. I was lucky that he did this action, and he's like cracking his knuckles as well when he did it. So he's got like jewelry and rings on and stuff.
Yeah, he's all very, of that. He's very Goomba, like East Coast-ish looking. It was
very right time, right place. And the technique of my camera work was awful. I just like lobbed my camera over and pressed the shutter. I didn't know what I was composing. I didn't know what I was doing, but that's just a right time, right place.
Hey, that's Mike. Oh, that's the one I wanted to show. That's the one I loved.
This is funny.
The guy with arms, extra arms.
So this was taken in Brighton, and I did a video with Chris Harrison. You know Chris Harrison?
Yes, I do, yes.
Now I explained the location of this and the situation to him, because I filmed a video with him the next day on YouTube, and he was so annoyed because he spends so much time on this exact spot, this exact street, and he lives there, and he's never taken a photo on that area, and he said that's cursed for him now. He's never going to go down there because I've taken this. Which, sorry, Chris, but I was only there for a day. There's like a corridor, so on the left of this frame is or the right, I don't know if it's flipped, whichever way, there's the seafront, and there was a storm, and obviously it was really windy, and all that wind gets compressed to this like alleyway, this corridor. So any time people came around the corner to walk up this street, they were like blasted with wind and rain. And when I saw that, I then stepped to the side, like under a shop front that was closed, and I thought, I'm just going to stand here, because every time people walk around this corner, it kicks off and goes crazy. Now, I was there for like 45 minutes. This was the last photo I took, which was so lucky, because I thought so much things are happening that it's very interesting. People broken umbrellas, there were people like stuff was getting blown in people's faces, but nothing worked out compositionally. Like, it looked messy, complex. It didn't work as a photograph, even though the moment was funny. It didn't work as a photograph. And then on this moment here, he stopped right in front of me, and then his sleeve was flapping, and I didn't notice that he didn't have his arm in his sleeve until I saw the photo afterwards. What I was taking a photo of was her struggling with the umbrella, and she was like holding a bottle of water, so she was like going crazy, and I was like, oh, that's it, I'll take a photo of her, realizing that as I started taking a photo of her, he looked over and was like squinting. So I think there's like 3 frames either side of that one where the sleeve doesn't flip out, but then on that one his sleeve is out, which makes it right. So that was a game of patience. I was there for a while, and then one of the frames managed to work out. But I feel sorry for Chris Harrison mainly, because he can't take a photo down that street now.
We've talked to so many people about whether to wait or not, and that's a good reason to wait there. Yeah,
you just got assess, right? If there's enough things happening repeatedly, that tells you that this is somewhere that it's like an active spot. I like to think of it. It's like a hot location. And that was, loads of stuff happened for like 45 minutes, but none of them worked as a photograph until that one, which
and you've got yourself a double whammy there, which is quite rare. Sometimes I've seen like a three things going on in one shot, but you've got two things, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. That's back to what we were saying about analyzing photographs. That's one of the things I like. So if you just get one thing, so that guy smoking that we just spoke about earlier, I don't think it's that good, but I can see the appeal. Like, it looks nice, like it's a good situation. But for me, for it to be really good, there'd be someone else behind him also smoking or something. Like, there'd be two things that are like, wow, that's great, or someone else with loads of jewelry on, like cracking their knuckles, or just something that relates to the main subject. That would be like even harder to capture. But yeah.
But see, here too, you know where you were. You know that it's a dense area and it's very populated. I don't know that, right? Yeah. So I'm not saying, oh, where's the background and where's the foreground and where's all this stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's a good capture, a good candid of a good character. And I'm interested in that character and I want to know more, and my brain starts telling its own story.
I think sometimes with shots like that, it can be just as good with a single character if there's enough in it. It doesn't need an extra.
So I think there's sorry, I'll just say on that, because that's a very good point. There's a personal bias, I think, attached to our own photo, like a negative personal bias attached to your own work, because you could appreciate that image for just face value, like you know nothing about it, so you could appreciate it more. Whereas I took the photo, so I knew that I didn't really mean to do it. I didn't really care for it. I just saw it like casually. It could have been better if there was other people. So I've got all of this like thinking in my head, whereas you're just accepting it as an image, which that's why looking through photo books and looking through other people's work, it's like a whole new way of appreciating photography, because you don't know anything about the scene. You can just visually be pleased with it. Whereas I think I don't really enjoy looking at my own photos, but I enjoy the attempt of taking them. So when I get a good photo, I don't look at it all the time. Like, I might post on Instagram, but I don't sit. Like, you know, when you go through a photo book, you really appreciate someone else's work. I don't do that with my own photos, because I'm like, well, I took it. It's not really a big deal. I think it's just a personal bias attached to your own work.
But that is a point that I've sort of latched onto recently, in that what is normal to us, what is normal to me. You know, I might go down to the beach and there's, you know, these really low ride custom cars that I see every Friday, right?
Yeah.
And you guys might go, what's going on? That's pretty rad. Why are these people sitting, you know, make it whatever. But to me, it might feel normal after a while. So I think that's part of, you know, it's good that we just sort of shoot, and Instagram is great in that it's just a gallery of everything that we see, and it's a practice. It's not a website. It's not a book. Right? Yeah. It's the gallery of just everything that we're throwing up onto the walls.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better. That's why I love the community and the people you meet, because you get to appreciate what other people see, and that's rare. Like, the things I see, I don't think are that interesting most of the time. But like you said, if I saw all those low-rider cars, people chilling, people sat on there, I'm thinking, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. But yeah, that's why it's so good that there's so many of us that enjoy this, because every day you get to see new work.
It's knowing as well. It's knowing that something you might see every day and you might take for granted, and maybe the first time you saw it, you was like, wow. You've got to remember that first time you saw it, because that's what other people are going to remember. You know, that's what other people are going to feel. I mean, I live on an island that's full of the Orthodox Jewish community, and we see them all the time. Yeah. But every time I post a picture of them, people are like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" You know, they've got an unusual sort of look to them, and grow their sideburns very, very long, and wear
that's stuff that people in other parts of the country have never seen before.
Yeah.
Danny, I don't want to interrupt this thought, but we are getting close to the 2 o'clock.
Yes. So
2 o'clock my time.
What we'll do, we'll end it there. And I must say, it's been really one of the best ones. I've really enjoyed talking to you. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
Really great. We're glad you agreed to come on. This video will be available on Street Badass Live, Street Badass Instagram, so if you want to go over there and watch it, if you've tuned in a bit late, you can watch it in its entirety.
Great to meet you, Mike.
Yeah, likewise.
Really good to
Thank
meet
you for having me on. I could talk about this stuff forever.
Maybe we'll get you on again for round 2.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
See you later.